What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. So I'm at the theater about to go check out Transformers 1. As a point of reference, I've always liked the Transformers franchise, but I've never been like a super fan the same way that I am a Marvel, DC, Star Wars fan. It really stems down to like I've never grew up watching the animated show. I did watch Transformers Prime that I think aired on like Cartoon Network, Nickelodeon, something like that. Definitely really enjoyed that show. But a lot of my knowledge of Transformers stems from the Michael Bay films that I grew up watching. Just to give you a quick rundown of kind of where I'm at in terms of the films in this franchise going into this new one. The first Transformers I've always really liked. Very funny movie, can get away with a lot of humor. Revenge of the Fallen, it's one of those movies that as a film I can't defend. Like, there's some really stupid stuff that happens, but it's glorious fun, and it's probably the movie that I feel like has the most Transformer action, if that makes sense. Dark of the Moon probably has some of the best Transformers action. Like, that last hour is absolutely phenomenal. Age of Extinction, I've always kind of been one of the few defenders for. It's not a bad film, to be honest. I've always really enjoyed it for what it is. Again, a lot of Transformer action. I like a lot of the new characters. Transformers The Last Knight is garbage. I don't even know if I finished watching the movie. There's like barely any Optimus, barely any Transformer fun that really made the last four. Like, even if they weren't good movies, they were at least kind of dumb fun. Last Knight is just terrible. Don't ever watch it. Bumblebee, actually, I felt like was quite a return to form. And Rise of the Beasts, again, very fun movie, not like the most memorable thing ever made, but it got the job done and it was thoroughly entertaining. So yeah, it seems like with Bumblebee and then Rise of the Beast, the Transformer franchise has definitely kind of been on a rebound, both in terms of critic and audience reception, as well as, well, they haven't exactly been that great at the box office, but maybe Transformers 1 will change that. I've heard great things, very strong word of mouth from early reviews. So let's check this out, and in a couple hours, I'll give you my quick breakdown and review of it. Peace out. Alright guys, so I got back from seeing Transformers 1 in the theaters. It was amazing, guys. Like, I never thought I would see the day where I would actually give a Transformers movie a really high score that I'm not going to disclose until the end of this video. But let's just say this is by far the best Transformers movie we've ever gotten. I think this is easily one of the best animated films we've gotten in probably the past 10 years. This might very well be animated film of the year, and I'd say this is somebody who loved Inside Out 2. Just wow. It really... Okay. The trailers for this movie, whoever, because, you know, studios themselves don't actually do the trailers. They might approve them, but usually they'll send it off to certain groups and they'll edit and, you know, form a trailer. Whoever created the trailers for Transformers 1 need to be fired. I'm just being real with you, they need to be fired. Because watching this movie, it's, you know, when you watch the trailer for Transformers 1, it felt like a comedy, and it felt like it was just going to be a bunch of kiddie jokes and just flashy action, and that there wasn't going to be any substance. When you watch this movie, yes, there's quite a bit of humor. There's quite a bit of moments where, you know, they're trying to kind of, like Bumblebee, for example. I feel like and this is probably my only issue with the movie, so I'll just go and get this out of the way. I feel like a lot of his character development really just stemmed down to the fact of, oh, I'm the comedic relief. But at the same time, despite, you know, Bumblebee not having a lot of real character development, I feel like a lot of the humor, it worked. One, even the jokes that I thought were kind of cringy and that they didn't work as well, they just didn't seem to land in the trailer. When you watch them in the context of the film, I feel like it actually does a really good job of making you laugh. Like, it feels earned, like there's actual real payoff to what they're saying and the jokes that they're making. Yeah, like, the movie, like the first maybe act of this movie, it's not like joke after joke after joke, but, you know, it's pretty jokey and it's definitely pretty lighthearted. But then there's a really fun race scene that, you know, it's like the equivalent of the pod racing for Transformers. That's all I'm going to say. It was great. I loved it. Amazing sequence. But then you get to the second act. And the second act is kind of where I feel like the main focus of the story, like the main plot points start kicking in. It's a lot of world building, a lot of lore that I really appreciated. And then you get to the third act, and like by the time you get to the third act, it gets dark. And I'm not going to give away any spoilers because this is once again a spoiler-free review, but Yeah, it is, wow, mind-blowing. I mean, it felt like, I actually, when the movie was over, I leaned over to a buddy of mine and I was like, dude, I said, I feel like this was like the Revenge of the Sith for Transformer movies, which, considering this is about Optimus and Megatron and how the two kind of split apart, they start out as friends, split apart. No, that's not a spoiler because all that was in the trailer. Yeah, like it made sense. And I knew this thing had to be like really, really epic to get to that level, but it is. I mean, it just, it builds an intensity, moments then, lines of dialogue that happen in like the first act of the film, they come back later on. Megatron, like, you relate so much to Megatron. And again, I've only seen really the movies of Transformers. I've never really watched a ton of the shows outside of some Transformers Prime like several years ago. But I will say this might be the most depth I think I've ever seen Megatron be given. He's more than just, he's more than that, I'm just going to destroy you, Optimus, because you're my enemy. And there's so much more actual weight and emotional resonance to his character that when he does make that snap, you feel it. Like the first 5 minutes of this movie with Optimus, well, he's not Optimus at first, is like Orion Pax or something like that, and then you have D16, I believe, that's Megatron, or soon to be Megatron, and they're talking to each other, and like you can just see the camaraderie and the friendship, the brotherhood, whatever you want to call it, between these characters. And I'm just sitting there and I'm like, oh, I know they're going to go down a dark, one of them at least is going to go down a dark path. I know they're going to split away, but I don't want that to happen. And to me, when a movie can make you feel that emotional punch, it's doing its job and it's doing it well. I feel like it's worth mentioning the voice performances because these are different from a lot of the movies and shows. Obviously, Brian Tyree Henry, he does a great job as Megatron. His voice was very threatening, menacing. Chris Hemsworth, obviously, look, I know there was a lot of controversy they didn't get Peter Cullen to voice Optimus, and I've always kind of defended it. I wasn't sure that Chris Hemsworth was exactly the right choice per se, but I've always kind of defended Chris Hemsworth playing Optimus on the basis of it is supposed to be a younger version, so similar to Chris Evans playing Buzz Lightyear in the Lightyear movie, instead of Tim Allen because they wanted a younger voice cast or a younger voice actor for that role. I kind of understood it in this instance too. And let me just say, having seen the movie for myself, I think if ever anybody is going to take over the voice of Peter Cullen as Optimus, it should be Chris Hemsworth. I mean, there's certainly some moments where I could definitely tell it was Chris Hemsworth's voice, but like as the film progresses, and maybe this was intentional, when by the time you get to like the third act and the end of this film, he was really, when you see Optimus mature as a character, he really did start to sound more like Peter Cullen. I mean, not exactly like him. No one's ever going to really top the GOAT. It's like, Kevin Conroy is playing Batman in animated stuff. Like, it's just, it's downright impossible. But that said, just his voice evolved and kind of grew with the character, if that makes sense. And I think once you see the movie, you're going to understand what I'm saying in this regard. But yeah, I thought he did a fantastic job. I would not be opposed to having him voice Optimus again. The animation, again, this is something else where I feel like the trailers, I don't know if it just wasn't finished, or maybe it's just me, maybe no one, maybe literally I'm the only person that thought this when I saw the movie. The animation in the trailers, it didn't look bad, it just looked kind of, it looked kind of generic. And, the movie itself, when you watch it, it's not like Spider-Verse level of, oh my gosh, they're like using animation techniques that I've never seen before, like it seems groundbreaking. It's not like that. But I will say, it is pretty darn good. Like, I can't really fault the animation at all. It was very fluent. The action sequences are like Infinity War level good. There's just these very like wide panoramic shots of fights. You can see everything that's going on. They're very, let's say choreographed, because I guess you don't really choreograph animation, but like, they're very hard hitting. They're not, Transformers Dark of the Moon or Age of Extinction level, obviously, because it is animation. But it did a fantastic job at really just getting me hyped up for the action. Again, the characters are just so well-rounded. And again, I liked Bumblebee. Like, I don't like the fact that he was just, that I feel like most of his character development was just being the comedic relief, but, I enjoyed him. I did laugh at a lot of the humor. I'm trying to think the Penguin's name. I'm blanking on who she was. She was also a lot of fun. A very good foil to Optimus Prime. The villain of this movie, I don't believe they've given it away in the trailers, so I won't say it here. But it is one that we've seen in another movie a live action movie. And when I first heard this character's name, and again, keep in mind, I'm not like, super into the Transformers lore and all that. I don't know like the name of every single character and whatnot. So when I heard this character's name, I instantly knew. I was like, wait, I've heard this name in that movie. And then as it continues on, I'm kind of like, okay, like I had a suspicion because they kind of do the, they try to do the, villain twist kind of thing, and it works. I'm not saying it doesn't work. I'm just saying that, for me, and I'm sure many people that know Transformers lore are gonna instantly know this is the baddie of the movie. But even so, the antagonist was a great antagonist for this movie. He really was kind of giving that. Like, I don't really want to spoil it, but he definitely. Think Homelander if Homelander was a robot. That's all I'm gonna say. Like, I'll just leave it at that. But yeah, he had a really good. He had motivations that made him evil. Like, okay, well here's how I'll put it. Like, I've always said the two best ways to do a villain is you either A, make them sympathetic, or B, you make them like beyond evil. You either like help us relate to this villain to where we can understand where they're coming from. Some good examples of this would be like Killmonger, and then you would make a villain like Heath Ledger's Joker that is just irredeemable, absolutely vile and cruel. And in this movie, we get both of those villains. You get obviously Megatron, who turns into just really this monster, but you also kind of relate to him. And then you is also a monster, but you don't relate to him. You just want to see him be put down. And, in a way, you almost kind of agree with Megatron when you're watching the movie. You're like, wait a minute. Like, you're saying, like, if I'm in Megatron's shoes, I'd probably be doing the same thing and wanting the same things that he wants. So, again, it just really made sense, and it's a testament to the writing in this film is absolutely great. You care about the Transformers, not, there's not one human in this movie. I don't know. You consider that a spoiler? Well, spoiler warning, there's no humans in this movie. There's no Sam, there's no Mark Wahlberg, no one else. This is a fully Cybertron, Autobot, and Decepticons, and a bunch of other factions that I can't remember. And they do a good job of making you care. It shows that the people that have been saying for decades now that the Transformers movies do not have to always go and make they don't always have to put humans in there for audiences to relate to them. It shows they were right, because this movie made me care more about these Autobots than any other Transformers movies made me care about a human. So yeah, I guess there's really nothing else I could say about the film. It really, if you haven't seen it, go watch it. It definitely continues the kind of hot streak that I feel like the Transformers franchise has been on since Bumblebee. If I had to rank probably the last few, I'd probably say Transformers 1 is obviously number one. I'd say Bumblebee as a film is probably better than Rise of the Beasts. But personally, I feel like I would rewatch Rise of the Beast over Bumblebee. But then Bumblebee obviously would be third, and then and that's excluding the Michael Bay films and all that. But yeah, so let me know in the comments down below, guys, what you all thought of this movie. I loved it. I think I'm gonna go surprisingly high with this rating, and I think you're gonna probably laugh at me. But once you go see the movie, feel free to come back and laugh at me if you really didn't like it. But I think you're gonna at least understand where I'm coming from. I'm gonna give this a 9.5 out of 10. Again, I was really trying to think of a negative I had for this movie, and there just really wasn't. I mean, it had great animation, great villains, great plot, really well written and well-rounded story, emotional beats. It just worked, and I truthfully was locked in and engaged every single second. I feel like so many movies these past few years have just tried to overstay their welcome. They drag out way longer than necessary. I swear 90% of the movies that I see today, I'm always like, well, the pacing was off in the first act, the pacing was off in the third act, it could have been tightened up a little bit. But here, I feel like this movie had the perfect runtime. And, even though I didn't feel like any plot elements were rushed, I was like, I just want to spend another hour in Cybertron with these characters. And yeah, there is a mid and post credit scene. That's the last thing I'll mention. So definitely stay for that if you go. It's not like you're not really missing out on anything, but one's really funny and the other is a really epic tease for a sequel. So anyways, guys, that's all I got for today. Leave a like and comment and subscribe in the comments and let me know what you thought about Transformers 1. Did you love it? Did you hate it? What is your favorite Transformers movie? Or even better, what was the first Transformers that you watched as a kid? I'd be very interested to know what people say and maybe the generational gaps between them. So anyways, that's all I got for today, guys. Peace out. Hey guys, if you enjoyed this video, please make sure you leave a like, comment, and most importantly, subscribe to support new and upcoming YouTubers like myself. And I will catch you all in the next video.